you're projected to do over 25 million this year.
The product opportunity is make great fucking products that work, because people aren't doing that. Our customers leave us these life-changing reviews, like absolutely life-changing reviews.
We're joined by Dan Murray, who is founder of Heights.
Yeah, I feel like Heights is a veteran of the D2C game.
From the outside, what is the founder's unfair advantage?
In my experience, I had insomnia and I was immediately given sleeping pills and told to just fuck off.
And maybe something that I picked up on from yourself is your ability to build relationships.
How have you found the impact of those celebrity engagements?
It's absolutely authentic customer. Nothing is more important than someone being able to talk about their personal experience using your product. Stephen Fry was our first customer, first order. Stephen Bartlett was in our first 100 orders.
From the outside, it looks very intentional that you have almost bucketed these personas that you've been able to extract through these celebrities. You've recently raised £2 million at a £60 million valuation.
Yep.
I saw you post something about you could have raised at a £100 million valuation.
Yeah.
I love the vulnerability to talk about this, which is something I've never really seen spoken about online.
Actually, we did have 2 years of flat growth, but those two things made an enormous impact.
Welcome back to another episode of D2C Diaries. We were just saying before we started that we're a little bit rusty because we've been in the trenches during Q4. So the last few episodes you would have seen will have been batched, but we're joined by Dan Murray, who is founder of Heights, one of the brands that we've been lucky enough to work with ourselves. I think you're projected to do over 25 million this year. I feel like you're really redefining what it means to build a science-backed premium wellness product in such a saturated space. You're also a serial entrepreneur, angel investor. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Nice to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Also the most experienced podcaster in the room, as we were saying before we started. I feel like Heights is like, you're like a veteran of the D2C game, if that's a thing.
Feels like it now, yeah.
I feel like you guys, was it 2018, the brand?
Well, 2019, we really got into what we want to make and how to make it. 2020, we launched.
2020, but even that, from a D2C perspective, feels like a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Probably seen a lot of different permutations of the market. You've been through the COVID roller coaster, come out the other side, and obviously now growing, I'm assuming faster than ever, based on what we're seeing in the media and some of the things that have been going on for you guys. So really excited to kind of dive into that journey and I guess some of the fundraising, some of your growth and how your role maybe has changed in the business. But as with most guests, I want to start with a bit of like context on the backstory, maybe like a 2 to 3 minute, if it's possible to cram it into that time.
I can try.
How did the brand come to be? What was the idea? What was what led to its inception?
So my business partner Joel and I were running a previous business before called Grabble. It was a hyper growth, classic VC startup, millions of users. Great highs, lots of awards, won an award from the Queen, like all sorts of awesome shit. And then it failed. And so we were like depressed and embarrassed and thought obviously that probably been focusing on the wrong things. During the experience, like we both ended up with quite bad mental health problems. I think generally it comes from working so hard, maybe having the wrong influences around you in terms of like the hustle grind culture mentality, and taking it really to the nth degree. So like no time off, no breaks, no nothing, no relationships, nothing other than just each other, the team, early mornings, late nights, like, living in the office, like all of the really genuinely incredibly stereotypical things, like lived through all of them. We did all of them. And it was fucking great. Like I loved it and I have like no regrets. Just would have been nice to have a great outcome from it all. But over the period, I picked up insomnia. So I had insomnia for 6 months. Joel had really terrible gut health issues. It's interesting, if you have gut health issues, you go to the doctor. The doctor immediately knows two things. One, it could be stress. It's quite commonly known. And two, and it probably is because he's explaining his lifestyle. And two, that you need to go and see a like nutritionist or dietitian because it's your stomach, it's your gut, it's very obvious, it's food, it's all related. In my case, so he went and did that and he got supplements to help and put through a process and like really started to understand like gut health and learn about it through his own experience, right? in my experience, I had insomnia, and so I was immediately given sleeping pills and told to just fuck off. And then when it didn't go away, I was like, okay, well then maybe you got a mental health problem. Go see a psychologist. Go do like sleep apnea, like this stuff inside a hospital, so that we can watch you. Like all of this stuff that you do, none of it worked. And then after 6 months, a friend said, "Have you been to see a dietitian?" And I was like, "Well, why would I go and do that? Like, that's for gut health, right? That's what Joel's doing." Like, no. I mean, you've tried everything else. Like, maybe you should go and do that. And I did. And the dietitian was immediately, because I was able to say, listen, it's been 6 months. I've tried all of these psychological interventions. She very simply was like, it's probably a nutritional intervention. Like, your brain is an organ, right? This is probably a biological challenge. And the reason I think that is because you've just told me all of the psychological things that you've tried that haven't made a dent. So let's try something else. And so she just recommended supplements. She said, you've got to get DHA omega-3, B vitamin complex, and blueberry extract because it's an antioxidant. I was like, great, I'll go to Holland & Barrett and get these things. She was like, well, you can't go there, actually. You have to go to Planet Organic or Whole Foods to get these supplements because that's the only places you'll find them in the right doses. And I was like, maybe you're not listening to my story. I run a startup. Like, I do not shop in Planet Organic. That's not my vibe. And she's like, well, you can't get that on the high street. Those quality doses don't exist. And so interestingly, I found these two things really interesting. Like, one, what? I did not know that. That makes no sense. And two, okay, let me try this. Anyway, I went to Planet Organic in Camden Town. Still had the receipts. This is how I got Planet Organic founder to invest in our first round, actually, because I kept the receipts and showed her what we were making and my original story. And so I spent £120 on 3 supplements and took them home. And within a couple of nights, I had my first full night's sleep. And was kind of mind blown because this was so obvious to one medical health professional, and so clear and so obvious. And I started to become really interested in the science. But then also this inkling that she'd said, which is like, you can't go to the high street. You have to go to these fancy stores. And I was just like, I don't understand this. And as the more I researched supplements, the more I realized that it's a really interesting space where there's an unusual brand opportunity space, right? There's a product opportunity and there's a brand opportunity. And the product opportunity is make great fucking products that work, because people aren't doing that because it's a race to the bottom in this space. And then 2, the marketing challenge is actually that whatever you do, you can only make the same marketing claims as everyone else. So the best product in the world can only say the same thing as the worst product in the world. So there's an enormous brand marketing comms opportunity. If you have to remove claims, remove the ability to tell people the thing that you do that's better than anyone else. If you can't do that, there's an amazing marketing challenge, which if you could nail, and felt like nailing it would come from having a great product, you would be able to elevate yourself amongst the category because everyone still has to play the same game. So these two things, they really combined. And with Joel's interest in gut health, my interest in really originally mental health around supplementation and nutrition, we're both like, there seems like an opportunity here, and got to work in a space that we knew nothing about. Neither of us had ever taken supplements or had any interest in this space at all. So it was quite an unusual start. That wasn't 3 minutes. But you got an edit button, so you do what you like.
It's a good synopsis, though. I think you're another example. We talk about this with a few of the founders that come on. You're the example of creating a product or a brand to solve a problem that you
totally
had yourself, which I think that's common for a lot of the best brands that we've either had on the pod or we work with. It has that like genuine appreciation for the problem, how that shows, authenticity, how that shows up in someone's life. That's not just like tiredness.
I agree.
A level deeper.
I think there's 3 types of founders. There's the founder that has a problem that they want to solve. There's the founder who's a great fucking management consultant and understands graphs and understands where there's an opportunity to build something new, which is very common in D2C as well, by the way. And then there's like someone who just wants to do something in AI because everyone else is doing it right now.
Yeah. Interesting. Whilst you're talking through that around like solving like a psychological issue with supplementation, it reminded me of, I read a tweet from this guy called George Mack who wrote an
Yeah, I love George. I'm George Mack. Yeah, he's great.
He wrote, I think he was like, fix hardware, sleep, exercise, diet, or power adapter environment before software psychology. It's like a lot of people jump when they're feeling like psychologically stressed to that like psychological fix rather than looking at those
100%
fundamental inputs into their engine, the body, etc.
I mean, I sell supplements, and whenever anyone asks me my top health tips, I literally say the same things, which is like, go for a walk and get 8 hours of sleep.
Yep.
If that doesn't work, there's other things. But like, if you don't start there, then there's no point Like there really isn't. And, it's very similar to people who, you want to build muscle, and people don't understand this in the gym space, but it's a bit like you want to build muscle, so you just start taking loads of creatine. It's like, well, have you tried upping your protein first? Like you don't jump straight to creatine, you do like these steps. Have you tried going into a gym and lifting weights? Because just drinking loads of protein isn't going to help you. It's just like you've got to take these logical steps, and they do start very simple stuff, and people skip the simple stuff and they go straight to this extreme.
Especially in this world we live in now, where it's this almost revolution of biohacking. And
well, this is very relevant. So sorry for hijacking this part, but this is super relevant for how we started. So obviously I'd had my personal experience of what this dietitian had told me to take. However, there's still this thing where in 2019, looking at market trends, looking at what people do and stuff, everyone is telling us like nootropics is going to be huge. So build nootropics. It's trendy. It's exciting. Your Chris Williamsons and stuff like that, they all love it. Like, that's the thing to do. And for us, we were always like, okay, but it's a perfect example. Like nootropics is like this little sprinkling on top of all of the other things. And actually, we'd both had pretty serious health issues because we were nutritionally underfed of core basics. So it's not fucking exciting to say, have you got your vitamin D? Have you got your omega-3s? Have you got this? This stuff isn't sexy at all. Everyone's been telling you to do this since the 1970s. However, no one's doing it really exceptionally well and packaging that up together into something really, really clear and concise and fucking cool and brilliant and powerful. But if you look at the science, that's way more effective to most people than any nootropic you'll ever have, like ever. Because most people are not getting the vitamins and nutrition that they need on a core basis, full stop. So it is like being able to separate the noise of what everyone's saying is exciting and actually be like, I know this stuff isn't exciting, but it's actually what people need.
Yeah, it's like trying to paint the bedroom before you build a house, right?
Totally.
It's like you need to do the fundamental first.
Totally.
I wanted to just touch on, you mentioned your lived experience in your previous business, the burnout, the mental health that led to the creation of Heights. Do you think that's also then translated to how you run the business functionally and how your relationship with the business looks relative to your previous?
Yeah, I mean, no one's in the office past 6, but that isn't because we don't think they should. If you're listening, you should. What the fuck you doing out the office? Do you know what we started? Like, I'd love to give some soundbite that made me sound like an amazing boss, but we started in the pandemic, and so in reality, we probably, actually the main thing that we did end up working out is that we had people on different time zones because we were working in the pandemic. We hired people who originally people came to our office in London, we had in Soho, and then immediately before their start date, it was the pandemic. So they were like from different countries because it's London. So we were like, well, go home to your family in, Turkey or Thailand or wherever, because like, don't just sit in London. We don't know how long this is going on for. And actually in the end, it's basically like years, right? So actually in that example, the person in Turkey is still in Turkey. The person in Thailand is still in Thailand, and we keep having to fucking fly them back to London all the time. But because they're such good performers, we just accept it. It is what it is. Now, obviously for that, there's like a time zone issue. So it's like trying to work out what's more unreasonable is like, do you accidentally get everyone on a 24-hour time zone where it's not really, you're getting work done, but it's not really clear what the boundaries we should have are because someone's in Thailand. It's the morning for them, but it's the evening for you. But it's COVID. So like, who cares? We've all got nothing to do. So we're all working all the time. That was starting to become our culture. And because I'd already experienced such bad burnout and mental health problems, we had to literally put in rules that were like, guys, we love your passion, but no, you can't work like this. Yeah. Like, because when you are remote, actually, the countercultural opinion is that if you're remote, people fuck around and don't work, but actually you sort of overwork. You're always working. You never really know when to stop. Got your phone, you've got your laptop, even if you're second screening. And we've got, we work in a space where our customers also, which helps a lot, right? Our customers leave us these life-changing reviews, like absolutely life-changing reviews. And now at our scale, multiple times a day. So everyone's 10 times more motivated as well to keep working and keep building. And so we had to put in pretty strict rules around COVID, around just no more work. And we had to, as founders, which is difficult because you always want to work, lead from the front with that. Now we're in an office, it's almost unspoken. People come in 9:30, 10. No one's really in the office ever after 6. And actually, we've always worked on one of our company values is obsess over outcomes. So we're like, we broadly don't care. Like, turn up to meetings that you're meant to be in. Don't be rude. But like, you are an adult, go manage your objectives and your outcomes. And if you miss them, there'll be performance reviews and you might not have a job. But like, also you're an adult. Like, if you are performing, that's great. Do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. We follow that same philosophy. Like, it's about the business impact, not about necessarily the way that you achieve that business impact. I'd love to dig into when we have guests on. I always try and look at, okay, from the outside, what is the founder's unfair advantage, or the thing that maybe makes them different? And maybe something that I picked up on from yourself is your ability to build relationships. That could be from a raising money perspective, but also from the perspective of like how you have these really authentic celebrity ambassadors that you've worked with as well. I mean, firstly, would that be a fair suggestion? And secondly, if so, what does that look like in your eyes?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reflecting on this the other day. So weirdly, so I'm Jewish and I'm not religious, but part of being Jewish is like you grow up with like weekly dinners with family, with strangers. Like, it's just part of your growing up. Like, once a week, you know, there's not a debate. You like sit down and you all have family dinner together, and people come and you meet new people, you go to other people's dinners and like that kind of stuff. And I was reflecting how actually for the last 12 and a half years, I've basically hosted monthly dinners, meeting people in town, and nothing to do with religion. It has never even come up that I'm Jewish. My point is that like, I realized that probably had a really big impact on my interest to sit with strangers and have dinner with them and just meet them and have conversations and get to know people on a really human level. And as much as I love social media and I love connecting, like WhatsApp, and like, everyone always comments I am pretty active in like most groups. I'm like a very unstressed person about being able to communicate on multiple fronts quite comfortably. The thing that I really pride myself on, that my friends know me really well for, is like my ability to sit in a room with my phone off for multiple hours and just connect with people like in a meaningful way. And I don't like to compromise on that. Like, I don't think that like doing a Zoom with someone is meaningful. I don't think that doing stuff virtually is that meaningful. Like, I always try to like spend time getting to know a person. And it's made me quite, what it has is actually made me realize that it's a very obvious statement, but everyone is basically a completely messed up and confused human being. And that also extends to celebrities. So what's basically happened is like over this period, like I've, been able to meet obviously investors and, experienced operators and stuff, where other people idolize them, and Secret Leaders is a really good example, right? I built this business podcast, 400 episodes, I've interviewed 50, 60 unicorn founders and asked them all the questions I ever wanted to. It was always so comfortable for me because I'm used to sitting in a room with someone for multiple hours and having a conversation with them, following my curiosity, which is all based on who they are, not what they are worth or what they do. And so, like on a really simple human level, if you show deep curiosity in someone else's interests, because you are in, like, there's this great Peter Drucker quote, which is like, the goal is not to be interested, the goal is to be interesting. Sorry, the goal is not to be interesting, it's to be interested. Yeah. And if you are interested, you are just going to be electric and you are going to connect with that person, regardless if you agree with their views. If you're just interested in them, it will connect you to. So it's quite a long-winded way of saying like, that's a very good breeding ground in general to then, when I have had the opportunity to meet celebrities, they're very used to sycophants, having to distance themselves a bit from any new relationship whatsoever, whether it's a brand founder or it's a fan or it's someone that they're working with. There is totally, and I get it, that there is a like must make some space here. And I've always, for whatever reason, been able to like break that down immediately. Like every single one of our celebrity ambassadors is one of our actual customers and has been on our like customer list for minimum 6 months is our rule, but like even up to 2 years before we start working with them. They're all on WhatsApp. I've gone for dinner with all of them, dinner or lunch with all of them. And I speak to them like friends, but I don't hassle them, right? As in, I'm not like trying to spend time with them. I'm also busy, they're busy. And I think that there is this like really important thing, like a lesson for people when it comes to like building relationships, which is you've also got value. Like put yourself on a level with people. Don't like look up to them. Plus everyone is really like, disappointing if you're going to do that anyway. So imagine that you're on like a completely human, spiritual, same level as them anyway. And secondly, just be really interested in their insights and personal opinions and views around all sorts of things that aren't about their fame or aren't about their career. Because actually that's where like you find all your common interests, right? I can't sit and have a conversation with Stephen Fry about fame, for example, or being an actor and connect with him on any kind of level, because I don't have any lived experience to compare at all. But I can totally be like, what do, like even down genuinely with him, like about diet, right? Like, what are your views on diet? What do you think about that? Oh, how come? Oh, really? What? That about soil? I didn't know that about soil. Do you know what? I actually read this thing about this particular vegetable. That's like a random example, but it's you're both having a super interesting exchange. And I know for a fact, because I understand how humans work, we're both coming away from that feeling quite connected. And so that connection is the pathway to building these great relationships. And when you have these great relationships, you build trust. And when you build trust, you can start to build these great campaigns of people that feel really authentic.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so almost like you're trying to find that common ground. And there's that study, isn't there, around, people sat on a plane talking to one another, and I forgot the long and short of it, but the person that came out of it that found someone the most interesting was the one that all they did was ask questions.
Yes, I've read that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
They didn't say anything about themselves. They just asked questions.
100%. And being curious is like absolutely natural thing for entrepreneurs anyway. But I think the problem is a lot of successful people in general, and this is like the counterpoint, a lot of successful people are insanely laser focused on outcomes and what they want to extract out of other people. And the annoying thing is that is a very well-trodden, successful path for successful entrepreneurs anyway. So that's almost like completely counter to how I would do stuff, right? Like I'll go into these negotiations with people and like maybe never come to talking about the contract whatsoever, but I'll come out of the conversation knowing for a fact that we're going to be working together and that we're going to get to an agreement that we're both happy with. But whether or not I actually achieve the outcome of what I set out to do, Nick, our marketing director, I'll come out for some of these meetings and be like, so like, what's the deal? Where are we at? And I'm like, well, I fucking forgot to ask. I'm sorry. But I still know it's going to happen, but I just completely forget because I just get lost in this like curiosity for the person.
But I think this is super, like we said again, authentic way of engaging with people in terms of like turning it to like an outcome for the business. Is how have you found? Because I'm sure quite a few founders and operators watching will be interested. Like, how have you found the impacts of those celebrity engagements, and maybe like, can you differentiate between what's made like one of them maybe more successful than another? Maybe.
Yeah. So the whole celebrity thing, by the way, has been a complete. It's two things worth saying. One, it's been a complete accident, and two, it's literally the opposite of our strategy by a million miles. And I will say that the very first tagline I came up with for Heights, and I'm ashamed to publish this, but was like, we spent all of our money on science instead of celebrities, basically, right? Because I was like so anti the way someone like Vitabiotics was doing stuff where they'll just pay a celebrity to be a face. And I've always been like, such bollocks. And then ironically, look at me now. So I'm like, there's a lesson in here as well, though, which is like, running a company is about survival. And you could be the smartest. I always give this advice to people I invest in, right? Like, who are like making so many smart choices. And I'm like, you don't want to be the smartest, smuggest, most efficient loser, right? Like, you don't want your company to fail, but like be the smartest, smuggest, most efficient one of doing that. You've got to find a way to win one way or another. And like, actually, like, you've got to also reevaluate what your like principles or thoughts about the way you want to do stuff is. Now, in our space, I was obsessed with science. Like, I love science. Joel loves science. We love science communications. We were ramming science down people's throats till they were blue in the face. And there was benefit to this, which actually, Stephen Fry was our first order, because he ordered the day before we launched, January the 5th, 2020. And Stephen Bartlett was in our first 100 orders. And actually, like, it's a good example. Like, all of the science comms and stuff is great for people like that, right? They want to see all the trust and yada, yada, yada. And so in a teeny weeny little niche is really, really strong. But you've got to get out of that niche. So we learned science comms was okay for us as early adopters up until 3 or 4 million. We flatlined completely at that point because we're trying to now get into like broader mass market of customers that don't sit in a super early adopter narrative. This is like founders and a few really intelligent people. But outside of that, that's not what people are looking for, right? So we got stuck so badly. And we honestly got quite lucky that we were noticing. I mean, this is unsurprising, but like our most effective stuff that we'd done was like, either me on Diary of a CEO and then Stephen promoting our product, or it was, Stephen Fry saying stuff. And we're like, okay, there's something here. Like, let's just explore it. I guess what we've learned over time is the reason that those things worked, and the answer to your question for us, it's absolutely authentic customer. So they have to speak about their experience, and they can only really do that once they've been a customer for 6 months. So we were like, they have to be a customer for a minimum of 6 months. They have to be a paying customer. So no freebies, no sending shit out. Not for any reason in our, like, to other D2Cs do that, but in our space, this is a daily supplement they're personally taking. So even if you're really fucking rich, if you're not paying for something and choosing to be a subscriber to that thing, you ain't taking it. It's just going to sit.
It's like giving people free education, free courses. Like, you need the monetary exchange. The conviction.
I argue with my friend Simon Scribb about this all the time, but I still agree with you on this. Like, I don't think it has the impact. Like, I think you need to pay for something for it to have that value, for you to be motivated to complete the course.
Yeah.
And Ali Abdaal, who's like another really big YouTuber in the space, he'll say like 40% of the people that pay for his stuff still don't take it. Right. So they pay and do nothing.
Yeah.
So, even just imagine the psychology going on with people. Right. So anyway, we're like, 6 months, they have to have what we've learned over time. So let me fast forward my current lessons on like how to make this work. They have to be really good in front of a screen in media. I know that sounds very obvious, but actually what I would say is I am pushed. Basically, we have a lot of sports celebrities that take our product. So basically, 2 of our products are used by the England football team, the England rugby team, the South Africa rugby team, the Ireland rugby team, like a couple of F1 teams as well, and all the engineering pit crew. So we now have like a lot of famous celebrities that take our product. They do not work in front of camera, broadly. There are very few, right? Very few who have like the media training to be electric in front of a camera.
It's an energy, right?
It's an energy. It's a skill.
It's storytelling with product. And acting and storytelling.
Yeah,
very different.
Totally,
very different things.
So we need to have high confidence that they have that, and then thirdly, they need to like have some kind of like, certainly they need like some national awareness ideally. So for example, what most people do is they focus on like how many millions of YouTube subscribers or Instagram followers you've got. Like for us, the golden ticket is like, ideally someone has like under 500,000, but is on like national TV regularly. That's great because their agents always value these like fucking Instagram followers that are meaningless, like so high, but you're not really tapping into that anyway. You're tapping into their ability to tell a story on camera and use it in paid ads. So it's a very different thing. And then this is like countercultural. We've basically learned like all of our good ambassadors broadly, they have some kind of controversial past. Whether that's like Matt Willis with his like, used to be a drug addict, or it's like Spencer Matthews, used to be a womanizer and like alcoholic, and whether it's Stephen Fry with his bipolar, or Stephen Bartlett, very strong opinion, all of these people, interestingly, they tend to have some kind of spikiness to them, which isn't something that we looked for or noticed, but interestingly, there is some aspect of polarization broadly.
Makes them more relatable.
Totally.
Also draws out a lot of engagement.
It does. The one that's bucked that trend, so maybe it's not a hard and fast rule, has actually been Ben Shepherd. The Ben Shepherd one's interesting because everyone likes him. Yeah. Like he can't put a foot wrong. He's on national TV all the time, and he's also super nice. The thing I think that's worked really well for him is we got really lucky that we were working with him when he was 49. It took us for a whole year, and in the end he did this men's health cover that we knew nothing about, and it went very viral for him, became a real thing. We were the core part of his stack. Men just looked at that and were like, I want to look like that.
Yeah.
It's perfect, right? Because, he's like, well, height is part of this stack. So that was lucky. But I do think that having a bit of a philosophy of who's right or who's wrong is a helpful framing. But what I will say, and I think this is also really important, nothing is more important than someone being able to talk about their personal experience using your product. So originally I had a list of people that I wanted to go after, and I've tried very hard to go after them, and it's really never gone anywhere. By the way, a really good example actually is Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua, we've been circling around with for years, right? And in the end, this fight that he's about to do, I got offered to like sponsor him and all this kind of stuff. But like, I know for a fact he hasn't been taking the product. And so it's like, I found that very inauthentic. It's not really like of him, not criticizing him, but it's this whole team around him and everything else, where it's like, even if, because bear in mind that Jake Paul fight is going to be the most watched maybe sporting event ever. Who knows? It was just be humongous, right? They're estimating 250 million viewers in a day. So that could be great awareness for heights and all of the things, but it would totally compromise what I know to be true, which is that he does not authentically take heights.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
So, and he's not taking them leading up to the fight. So then I imagine him getting on camera and having to say these things. He's not authentically going to, well, maybe he'd lie, I have no idea. I don't think he would, right? But if he did, it wouldn't come across authentic. So you have to like have strong conviction on what you know is going to work or what you know isn't going to work. And sometimes a way less famous person with a much better story will outperform a really famous person and a poor story.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you spoke earlier about you can't differentiate the claims that you can make within supplementation, but your strategy is impossible if the product doesn't work. The product isn't great. So, you know, these people aren't going to
They're just talking about their own experience.
Exactly.
And there is no marketing reason why they can't talk about that. They can't say things like it's cured my mental health or anything like that. We're not allowed to use that, any of that. But they can just talk about all the great things it's added value to their life for. And they do it so passionately and excitedly. You know, we filmed with Carol Vorderman last Friday. She like literally invited us to come to her house in Bristol because she was like, I just got so many other supplements I've taken in this basket, like these 2 baskets. And like, I want to show them to you. Like, I want you guys to see them, that is like a real thing, and that I've switched all to heights. And also all these books that I've written on nutrition, by the way, in my career, which I didn't know about. But they're all in her library and they're really cool. And like, but you know, I can only do that in my house. So do you want to come and do that? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. That's amazing.
Because we've worked with you guys for a couple of months now on the creative side. So I've really studied.
And doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, genuinely great job.
And so I've studied a lot of these kind of celebrity ads that you guys have been doing. And I don't know if this is intentional, but I think from the outside, it looks very intentional that you have almost bucketed these personas that you've been able to extract through these celebrities. So, for example, Carol Vorderman, the post-menopausal woman, you know, the Ben Shepherd, which is almost the professional dad. You have the Spencer Matthews, who's almost like the athletic dad.
Yep.
Has that been intentional? Because I think by doing that, you've almost like increased your TAM by speaking to these different subsets.
So not at all. Genuinely not at all.
You just articulated it for the first time.
No. I was saying, so what's funny is my plan in 2026 is to start to be strategic. And I know that sounds absurd because it looks like we fucking smashed that strategy. But the really interesting thing in our space is like we come from a fundamental principle on the science that if you build exceptionally high quality products and not that many of them and they're combinations, right? And they do different things. We have one that's vitamins, vitals, one that's bacteria for your microbiome, that's biotic, one that's minerals, that is the magnesium because it's the core mineral that you actually need. Well, hydration as well is minerals, so say those 2 are minerals. And Karma, which is like basically a botanical blend, and then and then Thrive, which is like the longevity one, which is for cellular energy. These are all different systems. Different people want different things for different outcomes. But the point is, because we've just focused on like, what is if we're taking that category and making one product in the entire category, let's make it the best and how do we do it? If you do that, it's as effective for a 25-year-old, you know, like Grace Beverley, for example, as it is for Carol Vorderman at 65. And they are completely different need states. And then also Spencer Matthews doing a Guinness World Record of 7 Ironman ultramarathons in 21 days, right? Which is insane. That's the same core product all 3 people use. And that isn't intentional. It's just based on like, as a human being, knowing what most people eat on a daily basis and the nutrient gaps they have and the nutrients they need, that does cover the fucking basis for these people. Now, there are other types of personas, like a Brian Johnson's a really good example. Like heights is never going to be relevant for him because he is in pursuit of perfection. And these people mostly are in pursuit of progress. They're busy. They don't want to take loads of things. They do want to know they're covering their bases. Like it's very important to them, but they're all really busy. So they just don't have time to faff with his like 100 supplement routine or anything like that. And a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't. So back to the, how do we get our celebrity ambassadors? Literally, like I once went into an agency called YMU, and I gave them 50 vitals, basically 50 of our core products, and said, give them to whoever you want and let's see what happens. Because they're always trying to sell me their celebrities, right? I know there's the most common thing, like my inbounds are all just like, hey, do you want to work with X celebrity? They love you. And I'm like, well, I don't believe it. And they're like, well, no, they love heights. I'm like, I've just gone on Shopify. They're not a customer. No, they definitely are. Why are they under an alias? By the way, this fun fact, side story, this exact thing happened with Rylan. His agent kept trying to tell me that Rylan was a customer, and I'm like, he's fucking not. And then it turns out his name's actually Ross Clark. And so he'd been a customer. His agent had been trying to sell me Rylan for 2 years. And Rylan messages me and stuff. He's always like saying, I love heights, but I just do not believe it. Yeah. Anyway, I found out in the end, Ross Clark, and he has actually been, we've just done a content shoot with Rylan. Absolutely fucking brilliant and ready to go.
He can show up on camera.
Oh, amazing! He was amazing, and interestingly, he's a good example of someone I would never have originally said like we're going to work with. A, I said no, but B, I wouldn't have originally thought we'd work with someone like him because I don't feel like that's like necessarily like theoretical brand fit, right? But that's where I've been completely wrong, because actually, heights is all about, you know, reaching your heights at whatever stage you're at in your life and your personal goals and where you're looking to get to next, which is a deeply personal thing. And I think initially I focused a bit too much on this idea of like what the perfect customer looks like versus understanding that we offer simplicity and high quality, which means if you're a busy person living a busy life, you're a perfect customer for us. And you might be busy at 25, you might be busy at 65, and everything in between, we're right for you. And so this YMU story, sent it out to 50 people. 2 people, basically, out of the 50, obsessed. One of them was Jake Humphrey, one of them was Matt Willis. And neither of them were ever on a list of mine. They've both been 2 of our best ambassadors by a mile. Like so many of our referrals come from them. It's really authentic. They've been taking the product for 3 years. They both sign up. So this is the other side of it, is like, people always think I'm joking, but I'm not. I'm like, you know, with YMU, they were like, they love it. Can you send more? And I'm like, no, if they love it, they'll buy it.
Yeah.
Like, it's really simple. It's their bodies and it's their health. Like, I'm not their mum or dad. So like, if they genuinely think our product's better, so assume that 48 people didn't think that about heights. I'm not offended. Go fucking take AG1 or whatever it is you take. Those 2 people subscribe to heights. So those 2 people are the people that we work with, and neither of those people are on my list, and their content bangs. So like, the one rule that we've never compromised on is this. Like, no, same with Anthony Joshua, right? They want to, no. Unless he's literally going in like a human being, back to the point earlier, and signing up like a human being. I don't care if he's like the biggest person in the world. It's for his health. Yeah. So if he doesn't authentically believe it, none of the stuff afterwards will work. So there's no point even having the conversation. So it becomes really easy with this kind of funnel lens. It's really easy working with celebrities because most of them are too busy, or they don't follow through, or they don't become customers, or any of those things. They just don't happen. And we are super low ego about this. We're like, we don't know who we should be going after. We just know that the most authentic stories are the ones that work. And that is just whoever it ends up being.
I love that. Yeah. And just moving on then, you've recently raised £2 million at a £60 million valuation. Yep. I saw you post something about you could have raised at £100 million valuation.
Yeah.
I love the vulnerability to talk about this, which is something I've never really seen spoken about online, because usually it's, as you put it, like a stroke of the ego to get a higher valuation. Talk about your reasoning as to why you didn't raise at a higher valuation.
Yeah. So very simply, I've already failed a company that, you know, valuations got away from us. So it's important to say that, you know, you learn and you reflect. Valuations are a vanity metric at the end of the day. They're less so a vanity metric when you can tie them to real outcomes. So in our space, a very, very safe bet is that you might get 4x revenue on an exit, right? In D2C. If you've got good metrics, like assume your retention's good, assume your churn is really low, assume a lot of things. But 4 to 6 in our space would be quite reasonable. So I'm now thinking in the mindset of my investors, like, how do I know for a fact I'm not, like, it's going to be hard to lose the money if they invest? That's one thing, because actually I've already lost my investors' money before and I hated that feeling. Like, I swore to myself and Joel, we're not doing that again. Like, our investors are getting a return. The later people that come in, the smaller the return profile is, right? So at this point, the tickets, you know, they're a little bit bigger, there's fewer of them, and the window that you might sell in is shorter. And the narrative, you're no longer saying, this is 100xer. Yeah. You're like, look, and I'm going to look at you in the eyes. I don't think it is. You have to make your own assessment. And I have no idea what the answer is, but 4 to 6 is like, you know, exactly what the current market looks like, you know, because we get all those emails from the banks and stuff who send them to us. So it's fair to say that under 4 would be reasonable. 3 becomes a no-brainer. 3x revenue becomes a no-brainer because you're like, 4 is the lower end. 3 is, you know, why wouldn't we? Now, on the 100 million thing, the worst case scenario that could happen is like, we do have a flat year. We struggle, you know, you become an entrepreneur for so long, you notice that it's not always just even your fault. The world can change, and everyone remembers like Russia invading Ukraine and everything tanked suddenly. Like, who saw that coming? It's so random. So that tanked like the world economy like quite quickly. So these things can happen, right? And so as a result, like those things can happen. You know, everything could turn bad and our revenue could go down. And if all of those things happen, like climbing back up to 60 still feels really doable, but climbing up to 100 seems like really far away. You have to genuinely believe there's 100 million pounds of value in this business. I think that's like a lot of gaslighting that entrepreneurs do to themselves. In real world terms, in the real world where people buy companies, I don't see it, right? So that's the first thing. I want to make sure that we weren't gaslighting ourselves as entrepreneurs, and I want to make sure that our investors definitely get a return. Secondly, I think entrepreneurs really focus on the wrong things. The most important thing, again, this is a lived experience from making a mistake. The most important thing is keeping control of your board and keeping control of your company. Joel and I have 50.1% of control of the company, no matter what our dilution is. That is in our contracts. When you start to raise more money, people try and pull out contracts like that. Like they pull out clauses like that, like, no, we'll give you more money at a higher valuation, but that's got to come out. And I'm like, well, I'd rather take less money and keep control, thank you. So no thanks. So there are certain levers and negotiation tactics you as founders can put in when you're in control. And so if your dilution is really small, investors never have much of an upper hand to negotiate anything with you, ever. So the point is, at different stages, like what we've done anyway at Heights is raise a very little dilution. You know, this round was a 3% dilution. So it's absolutely tiny. It's virtually meaningless to us, right? That's 3% on the whole company. Yeah. So it's like, you know, even less than 1% to us. It's like, you don't even notice it. But it's enough to help us reach the next like milestone that we need and keep all control. And the price that you pay for that is like a slightly lower valuation. But again, the valuation means nothing. The only valuation that ever means anything is the price you sell for. And everything else along the way is literally made up. So I just feel like there's this weird narrative we've got ourselves in, more commonly because people want PR, actually. And this is usually from the tech company side, but it's permeated into other spaces too, where the big number is the big thing. But it, like that is a very glossy way to tell a story, and it has nothing to do with the underlying business. And actually, Joel and I have a lot of conviction that we know how to turn this business into a multi-100 million pound valued company. And the way to do that is control. It's just that simple.
Makes sense. What is that? So you've raised that money. What is that next like threshold that you're trying to reach in terms of growth?
Well, you'll be pleased to know, seeing as we spend money with you. Why
we ask?
Exactly. This year we went from 12 to 25. We're like close to finishing on 26 actually, but we'll call it 25 because it is like at least 25, which was our stretch target. And I think that's really interesting because now the whole team believes. Like, start of the year, we didn't really believe that was possible. This year, like now that it's happened, we believe. So forecasting for end of next Jan, so Jan 2027, because Jan's obviously a big month for wellness in general. So Jan 2027 would like to be at 50 million ARR. Even though that's doubling the business and so much has to happen in order to do that, now it doesn't feel insurmountable. at all. In fact, now I feel like, I'd be surprised if we don't do it, or I'd actually be disappointed if we didn't do it. And I think at that point, the real target here is we want to be the most trusted supplement brand in Europe, right? That's the job. So there's a really interesting thing on our funnel that we've noticed, which is like the big celebrities with the good content and stuff is great for top of funnel awareness. Like most people don't convert off the stuff, but it's great for the top of funnel awareness. And that's our job, right? Our job is to get people in the heights world so we can retarget them with the content that you guys make for us. So we can retarget them with science content, like take them down the funnel. And if someone lands on our page, like our CTRs have to be really strong. Conversion has to be really strong. And so the really exciting thing we've done is invest over the last year in being the first company in the UK. And I think in Europe, but we need to verify that, with a double-blind placebo-controlled gold class study on a multivitamin in healthy adults. So why that's important? Multivitamin is the biggest category of vitamin, full stop. There is only one other study currently that's done this way, which is for over 70s. And so this would enable us to literally say, we are the only multivitamin in the whole country that's proven to work. The only one. Because this is something you do in pharma. Like a double-blind placebo-controlled study, for those who don't know, means that not only do the participants taking the study not know what they're taking, but the researchers don't know what they're taking, and the universities that are participating don't know that it's taking. So the whole thing is randomized. So there's no way to fudge or fake the data, and the results have been exceptional on vitals. And we did this in the winter, which is the worst time to do it, because usually people do this stuff in the summer where everything's, you're going to get better metrics anyway. We did ours in the winter on healthy adults. So when we publish this, we've got the results through now, and they're all really positive. And I think this is going to be like a total game changer for us. We have to we go through like a process. We'll probably get published in a journal in March, and et cetera, et cetera. But this is kind of like the start for our next evolution, right? Like each product for us has to go through this process so that we can literally stand on each product and go, in a very easy marketing, you still, by the way, with the claims, you can't make any different claims. The most annoying thing. So even though we can prove this stuff now, prove it in a science lab, in a pharma trial, you still can't actually say any difference. But what you can say is, that's cool, but is your one proven? Because ours is. So that's a big opportunity, right? Because just last thing on this is, if you imagine the biggest category of multivitamin customers is not convincing someone to take a multivitamin, because actually, if anyone takes anything, it's a multivitamin. It's convincing them that yours is better than theirs, and it's not guesswork. It's like, this is a scientific fact. And if you don't believe us, go back to your brand and ask them where their trial is. And that's the thing, because people don't do them because it doesn't feel like they're going to get the good result.
And it takes time.
And money.
And money. And
I think like it's a few $100,000 each time to do one of these trials.
I think that whole like expert authenticated study backed is going to be a big thing over the next couple of years. I think we've seen it rear its head with like the opposite of that, like the bad side this year with some of the things with James Smith.
Yes, totally. I love it. I love that stuff they did with creatine. Also, by the way, I've been saying gummies are bullshit for years. When everyone's like, when do you know if you'll sell out, or like one of those kind of questions, I'm like, you see us make a gummy, we sold out. Unless the science dramatically changes, but otherwise it is honestly just a sugar delivery system. It's bollocks. And
that was a kick up the arse for the industry.
James Smith was completely right. Yeah. But I mean, again, if you really genuinely make super high quality products and you're very high standards and you're not in any kind of way a charlatan, you know that it is true.
You can use gummy as a carrier. It's just like, it's going to taste like shit. It's like, it does away from like gummies are made to make them nicer.
Yes.
To do it properly, it takes that away.
And actually, I always say to people with kids,
apple cider is the worst.
Yeah, but I always say this with kids. As a dad, would I give my kids gummies? Yep, because that's better than sugar. Yeah. So I'm not pious personally, but as a company, as a brand, would Heights do it? No.
Yeah, I think we've seen like the negative side, but I think in a world where there's more new players, barrier to launch, barrier to execution is very small. A lot of Chinese factories
100%
filling things out.
100%.
It's like the things that are difficult create moat, create barriers are what's going to work.
Totally.
Whether that's content, whether that's authentication, etc. I think that's going to be a big trend.
Totally. And actually, you nailed it, which is that most of the stuff is just cheap and easy and minimum order quantities to get started from China and just get going. And so gummies, obviously vitamin pills, greens powders for sure, like all of these categories, maybe not liposomal vitamins, but like, a lot of these categories, they're, it's easy for $5,000, just get started, not worry about quality, stick up some slick branding and just get going. And that is where this market is just full of shit.
Yeah. You mentioned the growth rate you've seen this year. I think by looking at how long the business has been and where you're at now, you can definitely take a view that growth's probably not been linear through that process, right?
No, exactly.
And I don't think any e-com business's growth is like a linear path, or
any business.
Any business. It's a series of
except for IM8, weirdly.
Yeah, except for them.
I wonder how.
But I think. It'd be interesting to know. One note I had down was just like, what have been some of those like big inflection points? And that doesn't necessarily just need to be like marketing. It could be like personal growth. It could be people. To isolate maybe a couple of those over the last few years.
Good question. I mean, but let's start on the other part, which you referenced, but you didn't ask, which is like, actually, we did have 2 years of flat growth. And it was fucking painful. And, we did a round in 2021. And it was it was just a great round, great people, great feeling. And then we've pretty much from the fucking month that happened, just flatlined at 5 million for about 2 years.
Tough to keep. I think it's really, everything in it is easier, especially with people when you are winning, I feel.
Yeah.
Like it was in terms of motivation, culture,
totally,
energy.
And we had 25 people at 5 million, and we were really pushing. We launched in America and did all of this stuff, and it just didn't go anywhere. And so we basically got to a real crunch time where writing was on the wall, cost of living crisis came up, Russia, Ukraine, all of these things are really starting to take effect in 2022. I realized that if we didn't let go of almost everyone, we were going to be fucked. We had these we'd hired great senior team to catapult us to the next period, et cetera, et cetera. It just did not work, didn't gel, it didn't happen. And so we end up having to get rid of 75% of our employee force, went down to basically 6 people on top of Joel and I. Our salaries cut in half. We just basically went into cash preservation mode. Based on experience, again, right? This wasn't like urgent in theory, but it was the right thing to do because we were spending on growth and it wasn't going anywhere. So like we knew that what we're doing isn't working, and with the team that we have, it isn't working, but the cash burn is enormous because the team is experienced and senior. So we did this bold move and got rid of pretty much everyone unless they were like quite junior, and kind of built up again and started again. And, for context, we're at 25 million now this month and 21 people.
Okay.
So, that just shows you 25 people with 5 million, 21 people with 25 million. So there was bad leadership decisions from us, like things that we were doing wrong, bad processes, you name it. But whatever we were doing wasn't working. And so that was one thing to say, which is like resetting from that point. And in that reset period, there is another side of it, which is, because of the way we do stuff at Heights, which is like, this has to be the most scientifically credible product, blah, 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 blah. We only had one product in the market for 3 years, right? So Vitals was our only product. Biotic, which is our second product, we kept thinking was about to come out, but then it failed the next test that we were trying to get, right? Which is like, we were trying to make this product proven to go from the mouth all the way through to the colon and survive the stomach journey, which is a uniquely difficult thing to do that no one else was doing and focusing on, but all of our, most impressive scientists we spoke to were like, that's actually the job of the probiotic. Like if it doesn't matter how many CFUs, live bacteria basically, are in the capsule inside the bottle, that's what the industry markets. What matters is how many have got to your colon through your body. That's the job. So we were like, that sounds like a great challenge. Let's try and do that. It turns out it was much harder than we thought. So it took 3.5 years.
Ignorance is bliss.
Totally. And like, over the long term, yes, we would have done the same thing again. But like, it was very painful because
especially
obviously having
just invest
and having 2 products
to market
exactly, and having 2 products will do a lot for your revenue over one product. Everyone else in the space, everyone I'm sure that you've ever seen with vitamins broadly, they'll go broad rather than deep. Whereas we kept like sticking with the same product, updating it, more trials, more tests, more evidence, updating the vitamin quantity and quality every time we could. That was like the job of us with Vitals. So our inflection point that year was What we're doing is not working. It was called the Smart Supplement, right? And it was really focused on brain health and brain messaging in general, because obviously this was based on like my story, my journey, what I'd learned, and it would really work for people like Stephen Fry, Stephen Bartlett, these people who like brain. Great. Wasn't working broadly for other people. So took a low ego approach across the whole business, which is like, hey, assume that we don't know anything and that actually everything is wrong. How do we go about like a testing process to get this right? Because when we put people through to our fucking website, they're not converting. So something's up. The two big changes, the inflection points, and I love to share this, which is because I think they're so interesting. Probably the biggest change of all in conversion rates and everything was changing the name, the Smart Supplement, to Vitals. Positioning, product naming never gets talked about. No one talks about the importance of that. We knew the Smart Supplement was clever, but it wasn't quite right. It always needed explaining. Vitals doesn't need that much explaining. It still does, like what is it? But it's vitamins, vitals, etc. And there's just something about it that made people be like, I need my vitals. Sure. So that one thing, enormous lift. And then the second thing was moving like away from just like really focused brain messaging. Because the problem that we had, by the way, was people we were learning now were taking vitals and a multivitamin. So we're doing a really bad job of explaining it's brain and body. But the point is it's brain as well, because it's omega-3s, it's antioxidants, it's things you don't get in a multivitamin. We've added them to a multivitamin and made it brain and body. We're doing such a bad job of communicating that through our messaging matrix that people are buying a multivitamin too. So actually getting too much, which is actually not good for them, right? So we were like, okay, there's messaging work to be done. Those two things and a commitment to spending barely anything on growth, accepting that we were not going to grow. Instead of like forcing it, we spent like a year being like, let's just work on messaging. And this took quite a long time, by the way. It's about 6 months of testing to get to vitals and broader messaging on the product. But those two things made an enormous impact.
Yeah.
I think vitals are really, really good positioning. The previous, what was it called before?
Smart Supplement.
Almost leaves you with more questions than answers. It's like, right, what supplements? What like there's the follow-ons. I think I almost was chatting to our COO because we're building out this rating system for brands of giving them a score out of 100 as like a where we think they benchmark what the growth levers look like. And the one thing that is almost a foundation for all of that is messaging and positioning.
Yeah,
it's so hard when we start working with a brand and they've not got complete clarity on that. It's almost impossible to make it work.
With Heights, it's actually really hard because, you know, the other thing is this is great for TAM in theory, but like it's the opposite of what everyone tells you to do. Our audience is 50-50, male, female. So like there's no like, make this more female, make this more male. It's actually all just like, just clear, simple, scientific, like clear messaging.
Yeah.
But it's not very emotive to men or women, which in itself is really interesting. We use the ambassadors' personal stories and relationships that they might have to connect with people to do that job for us. But that's a really unusual thing, again, for a brand. Like,
it is, especially like supplement brands. A lot of them we work with, but
totally.
I think it's your
going super gendered is a genius strategy.
Yeah, but it's almost your biggest disadvantage, but also your biggest strength, because especially now with like Meta's Andromeda, like it's all about persona diversification and how you adapt that messaging and angles, and you know how we're speaking to those motivators and pain points within each of those core personas. So the more that we can diversify them, as long as you can nail each of those, like the bigger opportunity that gives you for you know incremental reach.
And then another really big lever, which is again, this is where it becomes your biggest strength. Very common thing is our typical customers somewhere like 35 to 55. Super common thing, they then buy subscriptions for their parents, mum and dad.
Interesting.
So that's like age benefit and gender benefit, right? Because they're like, it is actually really important. It's even more important. Like, in my opinion, that's like the most important audience. Tricky to get on social media in general. Like, they all have a low trust and all of this stuff, right? So it's trickier. But we don't then need to sell it to them at all, actually. It's like the existing customers who are feeling the benefits, who are like, I should do this for my mum and dad. Great.
I think that problem of diverse consumer is a problem in an early stage brand because it creates a prioritization problem. It's like, which should I get after?
Right.
and you try and do them all.
You're right. You're completely right.
But once you're past a certain level, it's something that many brands would long to have that.
100%. You try and break through, don't you?
Because you can build 4 different
Totally.
funnels and you can access the full market.
Exactly. Look, when you go through growth, you also go through these weird things of like compromise, non-compromise. I just saw an ad today, a LinkedIn post from the founder of Mudwater.
Yeah.
He's like, we're launching coffee. And it's like, okay, but like your entire brand was about like, I'm breaking up the coffee. That was literally the whole entire purpose of Mudwater is caffeine's bad for you. I'm anti-coffee, blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, it's his own product, the way that he's done it, etc. I also think he's great in general. I've met Shane a few times. I really like him. And I actually believe it will all be authentic and stuff. But that in itself tells a story, right? Which is like, you know, you just in this search for growth.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you have to find a new way and a new lever. And actually, to your point, if you already know that authentically you stand by the fact that you are great for men and women, and yes, it is all ages, and actually there's just, if you're busy, this is the best format and it's the highest quality and it's as simple as that, you don't have to then trip yourself up over how to message later and change things and stuff. It's like, well, no, we were always said that actually.
But like Liquid Death launching an energy drink was another one of those. It just feels weird for that brand, for what they are, what they stand for, what they've tried to do.
I bet it'll do well.
It'll do amazingly well for them. But it just felt a bit odd with the journey.
Yeah,
who knows after the recent controversy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We talked about the inflection points in the business. I also wanted to talk about your own position within the org chart. So obviously you've gone through multiple different type org structures and different sizes of scale. How many people did you say you're up to now?
21.
I certainly feel like every sort of 7 to 7 people, at least every 6 months, you almost have to like reinvent yourself as a
totally
as a founder in terms of your role, in terms of what you have to be great at. How has that journey been for you?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question and spot on. I have been CEO, co-CEO, CMO, all the titles. Do you know what? A couple of years ago, me and my business partner, Joel, basically went for a really good long walk. And it was just sort of like, look, co-CEOing is actually slowing us down. And that had actually been really good for us for a long time. Like everyone says, don't do it, etc. It had actually really worked for us. But now we could see that it was slowing us down. And there is like a good question on like who would be better at reporting to who. Also, who is a better people manager? Because that person in theory should be the CEO. And the answer to both those questions really were Joel. Like he is a much better people manager than I am. He's also like more strategic with more very strong opinions on like, you know, the strategic levers and stuff. And I have always been someone who is very, very, very flexible and very easy and like happy to do grunt work that no one else wants to do, which you got to as a founder anyway, and really high level strategic work, and also jump on a plane and go and do that thing with that person there. So because of that, and then that Joel definitely less like that for sure. You know, I'm like happy. I'll just turn up at the warehouse, then I'll go here and, you know, like all over. I don't really mind. Like, you know, last week I was at the warehouse on Thursday. I was in Bristol with Carol on Friday, you know, back in the office on Monday. Yeah, that's totally fine with me.
I can't do that one.
Totally.
And I think that's like the glamorous thing that people look at as like founders is like, oh, they get to go do these things, meet these people.
Oh yeah, super glamorous being on a train that much.
Yeah, but they think like meet cool people, do cool things. It's like
totally. But I guess
it's draining.
Yeah, it's draining. It's very draining. I've got 2 kids. You know, it's all draining, and I do every bedtime and bath time as well. So we like try and triangulate how to still be home for 6 o'clock and all that stuff. Point being, it became very clear to us that like he was better to be the CEO role. And my role is, I mean, technically as executive chairman doesn't really mean anything. Like at the moment, interestingly, in the last 6 months, main thing's actually been being really involved in the creative process. Because I've really enjoyed that. Actually, interestingly, it's this weird thing where like when we launched, I was doing all of the copy, brand, marketing, comms, PR, the newsletter, the socials, everything, all myself. The whole entire strategy and the whole entire every job in it, like from start to finish. I set up all of our Klaviyo, like, you know, like you name it, I did it. And over time, obviously delegating into like teams and stuff and letting other people do those different bits is great. I very consciously stepped away from doing much of the content after about year one because, and this is another thing, I do have strong opinions loosely held, but strong opinions that you don't want the brand to be completely focused around the founder. I actually think that this is like over time a net negative. And I really understand the value of personal brand, and I understand why people do it, and I understand all of these things, like I really do. But over time, I don't think that's a valuable brand story because it doesn't give the brand independence of its own story. It's almost lazy, right? It's like, it's obvious who your personality is, how you think, how you feel. But the job is to figure out how the brand is supposed to make your customer feel. So if it's all about you, you're not really taking someone through the hero's journey of like, you know, the customer is the hero, you're not the hero. So I stepped back from that for quite a few years and did all these other roles in between, right? You know, everything, but like fundraising and community management and like all the brand and marketing work, still just not the face of it. And then in the last year, started to do a little bit more. And Nick, who's our marketing director, who you guys work with, will like regularly point out that like my content's like outperforming the ambassadors, that I'm spending fucking tons of time negotiating.
Even our
with
first campaign with you, your founders, well, the objection handling founder story was the
well, this is the thing that's interesting, right? Like, I'm not a data driven person. That's not my vibe. Like, I'd rather fucking kill myself. But Joel's very data driven. Nick's very data driven. I'm more of a vibes guy. Like, I'll go and I like to like enjoy, spend time with people, do the thing, turn up and just wing it, but like wing it with good energy and authenticity. I think anything scripted is a bit painful because like, you know, it should come from a real place. And so I didn't have strong opinions on like being too involved in the content or whatever, but I want my company to win. So at the point where there's two things happening, one is that, you know, there's data and insight that says, actually, Dan, it's really useful for us that you do it. But also that I'm just one character amongst many that we're using in a diversified funnel for a brand. I'm comfortable. If I'd have done this too early, I think we could have got into that spot where it's a very founder-led brand, like Tala and Grace Beverly or something like that. And I think like that's a challenge on your time, your capacity. But I think it's also in general, you know, not a healthy long-term strategy. If you look to exit the company, and you are the company, then you're fucked. So I didn't want that either, right? Like all entrepreneurs, like pretty much the highest value I hold in life is freedom. So I didn't do this to create like another cage for myself. So you've got to really be careful where you utilize yourself in the funnel, and knowing that my content really works is exciting and motivating to me. It makes me want to do more, but it also helps me then sit in the funnel on the other campaigns and pull out creative ideas and insights for our ambassadors on what works. So that's really where I'm spending most of my time at the moment. And next year is like in the creative process because I find it super fascinating.
It sounds like you have a lot of humility and don't have an ego, which I think is sometimes what
I mean, everyone has an ego, but yeah.
But in the sense
a lot of ayahuasca.
The classic. But more from the sense of like you will do what needs to be done to win, whether and you don't have an ego from the perspective of I'm bigger or better than that.
No.
Which I think is really, really important and interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think the founder is a vehicle, right? It's a vehicle for a message, not the whole identity. There are edge cases.
It's a layer in the strategy.
You mentioned Grace Beverly and Tala. I also re-listened to a George Heaton podcast yesterday, and I just find him as a founder and the way he's built that business around his identity just quite fascinating. Like, I think he's just such an edge case where it's like the brand is him.
Totally.
And
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that the other day as well, which is like,
and you can't detach him.
It's interesting. Like he obviously has an enormous ego, and it's not an insult at all. Like, you have to have a big ego to think I'm going to build an entire brand around myself
because he is aspiration, I guess.
Totally, yeah, and
it's crazy.
Yeah, and I, by the way, I buy represent because I rate George Heaton. So no shame on having an ego, right? Like, I trust him. I think he's cool. I want to be cool, so I buy represent. It's like really genuinely, like I'm that basic. It works. It's a strategy that works. The point is, I didn't want that strategy for myself.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that's the right thing in a like health space either. No. Like, it just isn't, right? Like, again, we need Carol Vorderman to want to invite me to her house and hang out and look me in the eyes and feel like she can trust me that this is right for her. as much as Grace Beverly, another customer of ours or whatever, and everyone in between, without being like, this is Dan's journey, Dan's story, whatever. If I do that, then I'm just going to be getting men between 35 and 45.
Yeah, you're not
that's basically it.
You're not selling a lifestyle.
Related.
And each person kind of that product is a crutch for them in a different way. Versus, like you say, George Heaton, which is selling a lifestyle, a way of living.
Yeah, and actually what I'm selling is like the promise of that we do the science research. And that you're never going to find like ambassadors talking about our product that's all like fake and paid. That's obviously we pay them, but there are real customers.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to be inauthentic. Like that's what you're basically paying us for, is this like idea that we really focus on the truth and the science and have this aspiration to be the most trusted brand in the whole of Europe in this space. And I absolutely more confident than ever that we're going to get there. And I think that's always been the belief in how you win. That's also why, by the way, when we started, we only had one product. And the goal was like, before we make another product, that has to be the most validated we can in the space too, because short term, that's pain. We knew it was going to be pain. Like actually surprised we got even up to 5 million with that strategy, because I think that's like a very slow start strategy. But 10-year strategy, it's really obvious that that is how you win. And, you know, to fair play to IM8, for example, like, they come from Prenetics, which is a company that had already had a lot of data and insight. And I know Danny, the founder of that, because we were talking about like maybe working with Heights like in 2020. And I met him from Hong Kong, and he was a customer actually of Heights in our first, on Vitals, our first product. And, you know, the reason that's working isn't just David Beckham, is that there is a lot of scientific credibility behind their actual story.
It's also their execution. Like they are, we've actually got him coming on in January. We managed to get him on the podcast because we did a massive breakdown.
Who, Danny?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wicked.
Did a really big breakdown of the marketing funnel, like a Miro board, and gave it away. And he commented saying, "This is great." We sent me some IM8 actually. It was both. and their execution quality, funnel, they went out the gate hard, obviously.
He's fucking good entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like he really gets it.
Yeah, he executed every part of that funnel perfectly.
That's what I mean, right? So like, you know, again, there's not many brands in the space that will do that.
Yeah.
You know, I quite rate IM8. I fucking hate AG1 and think they're shit. But like I absolutely, you can't fault their strategy. Like their business acumen and their strategy, their products, gash. But their strategy, absolutely. I mean, I don't care who knows it's true. It's just bloody true. But their strategy and their business way of doing things is absolutely second to none.
It's beautiful, isn't it? One product.
Yeah, that's big. Scaling to 9 figures with a single SKU is
unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable.
We are coming to the end of the episode.
Yes.
But I did want to do a little segment, quick fire now, before we finish up. You did a LinkedIn post about December Reset.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you some of the questions that you put into this post, if you're happy answering them.
Go for it, yeah.
So the first one, identify the habit that quietly carried you this year.
Okay. So I do a word for the year every year, and as in a single word as opposed to a resolution. And that's been one of the most game-changing things I've done. I've done it for the last 7 years. And this year's word was focus, which seems really obvious. And all of this stuff is an interpretation of how you apply it. Now, my focus this year has been 2 things. 1, do less and do it better. And 2, on my body, actually, because I've always hated my fucking body and I've always wanted to change it and do something about it. And the focus thing on the body side has actually meant that I have lost 11 kilos, gained muscle mass, gained bone density. I've done a DEXA scan every 3 months. I've done these things. I pre-booked a DEXA scan every 3 months, knowing I was going to do that. I set myself a Saturday morning date every single Saturday this whole entire year to weigh myself and just like take my like photos and stuff, and just committed to going to the gym 4 times a week, basically. And I've pretty much not missed that at all year. And as a result, I've gone from 26% body fat to 15% body fat. And I know this is like a bit OTT on the answer, but the reason I did all that is a single thing, which is like focus on body. This is my goal. This is what I want. It's achievable if I just don't try and do too much. And these are the things. On the focus side on business, actually one of the reasons why it led to me shutting down Secret Leaders. As soon as that was my goal, it feels really unauthentic to run another company that's taking me away from the focus of Heights as it's scaling so much, right?
Yeah.
So it also creates compromise where you have to say, all right, fuck, I said I was going to do this thing. Am I going to make a really hard decision? Yes.
Yeah. Our listeners will know that that is literally all we've been talking about this year, focus, doing less better. And I think, it's very relevant coming into January with the new year, new me, and everyone kind of tries to build all of these new habits and go from 0 to 100. And as a result, everything by the 1st of Feb goes out the window. And it's true. It's like do less better. And therefore you're more likely to succeed.
I think it's a maturity in business. I feel like it's hard, and you go through this early stage of growing a business, opportunity becomes more frequent. You tend to say yes more. There becomes an inflection point where you start to realize that it's actually doing the opposite of that drives the results.
Totally. It's definitely maturity.
And have to go through it yourself, though.
Absolutely.
People can say it like you shouldn't do that, but you're just gonna do it, and you're gonna fuck up, and you're gonna be like, shouldn't have done that.
It was literally the inflection point in my agency. Like we went from doing 6 different services to lots of different types of ICPs to just doing one ICP, one service, and that was what grew our business.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It's annoying, isn't it? Because actually this is not this will be the millionth time someone's heard this on a podcast. But you never know if it's the moment that strikes someone as being like, oh, fuck it, I will commit to that.
Yeah.
And when you do finally commit to it, you learn that it is true.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, the second one, what drained you more than it gave back?
Definitely doing what you're doing right now. Podcasting. Yeah. In the end. And I think one of the reasons for that was I as I was saying earlier, right, like got to follow your curiosity. I think I sort of like partly also just fell out of love with it. I am, not as obsessed and interested in what everyone else is doing in their business nowadays as I am in like philosophy and like just other things, right? And so with a breadth of interest, as opposed to when I started, when I was just laser focused, interested in business all the time, as a result of that, I felt like I was sitting in an inauthentic place. And if you do anything that feels inauthentic to you anymore, it is very draining.
Yeah. And final one, what kind of days do you want more next year?
Writer days,
Record.
Obviously.
Record sales.
Yeah, exactly. Record sales days. I mean, deep down, that's obviously the answer. Let's be honest. Do you know what? I've got myself into a really, really just great process by this focus thing, figuring out the things, so many obvious things, but just figuring out, commitment to who's doing what childcare on what days. And on the days I'm not doing childcare, right, this is how my day works. On those days I wake up at 6, head to the gym. I've done everything before work starts. I'm home by 6. I've done my exercise. I just commit to going to bed early the night before. Some very obvious things, and they sound really quite boring, but actually they are the things that made me feel like my shit is properly together. And so I actually want more of exactly the same days I've already cultivated this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Final question. What big things what does 2026 look like for Heights?
So honestly, like my main thing is this, RCTs, randomized control studies, or trials. Like in all of the things, the number one thing I care about more than anything is just getting evidence, because I'm so bullish on our products. I know exactly the process that we go through. We've done trials on everything, by the way, and we always do, and the trials come back amazing. But there's always some on the internet who's like, it's not randomized, control, placebo, double blind. And you're like, because no one fucking does that.
I don't even know what that means.
It's like 500,000. Well, this is the thing. But it's like, I am that petty that I'm like, I will find that comments that shit. I did it the other day. I literally
send it to him.
I argued down an internet troll the other day. Him and I basically ended up being like, well, fair play to you too.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
On one of my ads, for sure. He was just fucking trolling, like, in all the comments and stuff. And I basically responded to all of them with the evidence and everything else. He was telling me like how shit our product is, where it's from. I'm like, you're literally wrong. This is where it's from. Here's the certificate. Here's the link. Because I take such great pride in the fact that genuinely our products are the best. And the annoying thing about retail is you really can't tell that story. Like I said, there's just like, you just have to put on a supplement label and it has to just say the same claims as everyone else. And you can't do a job of storytelling. But on the internet, where you can at least explain yourself and you have put all the effort in and you can link back to the pages and the trials and the evidence, I am petty enough to make sure that people genuinely know that if they're taking heights or even considering heights, it's the best product in the world. So these trials like genuinely are the thing that I care about more than anything else. And I think it's because I believe that the way that we get 100,000 customers, the way that we get 1 million customers is that. Like, I fundamentally think that that is the cornerstone to everything. If you know you have the best product, there's very little reason left for people not to choose you.
Yeah, and you can tell that through, I think you've had over 250 clinical studies, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You never see that with supplement brands. Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure, been really enjoyable. Where can people find you?
You can find me on social ranting about quality at Dan Murray S. On Instagram, LinkedIn, and if you are nuts enough, then Twitter.
Yeah, all the Heights ad comments.
Yeah,
all the Heights ads comment. Yeah, I mean, I'm on them. I'm on them for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're like, oh, this one's got like 300 comments. All right, 290 of them are Dan. Okay, fair enough.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. See you in the next episode.